see. Okay. Greetings, compadres. Welcome back to Eternally Amy. And for your mystery meat sandwich today, I have a quote by Phyllis Diller. And here it is. Always be nice to your children because they are the ones who will choose your rest home. And I love that because my mom has already decided that she's got this part of her estate, if you will, that's going to go towards her future rest home, her future care, should she need extra care. And so I'm always laughing about that with her because, you know, I'm blessed that she's still living and I get to have a relationship with her, but it's so my mom to like pre-plan this stuff, you know, like it just cracks me up because I'm kind of that one who's like, oh, like the afterthought, you know, rest home. Yeah. Not so sure. I'm totally planning on living with one of y'all 8 kids, you know? I mean, for me, it's just, I haven't gotten there yet, but my mom's like pre-planned all that. She's got her funeral arrangements kind of made and the songs she wants. And you know what? Great. More power to her. I love it. And so, based on that, it started to get me thinking about, you know, yeah, I'm going to ask my kids, like, hey, so like on Mondays, who's going to take me to Denny's for some moons over my hammy? And like on Tuesdays, you know, when Bartell's puts out their sales or whatever, and canned salmon is on sale, who's going to drive me over there to Bartell's to pick up this stuff? So in other words, AKA, I got to get my crap together, man. I got to get a plan in order. So hashtag thanks, mom, for keeping me on my game and reminding me to make some plans for the future. And that being said, I'm switching gears now, but here's the deal. I'm kind of not because it's on topic. We're talking about parenting today, but not just like parenting, kind of generic 101 parenting. My guest today, as I move into the chaplain's chat portion of the episode today, she's just enchanting. She is just a lovely, lovely lady. And sometimes I get on a podcast episode to record and I've never ever met the person in my life. And basically they're a stranger. And so the two of us do know each other in real life. And I have to say, she's just got the most honest, fascinating energy. And I know that you will feel that too. And her name is Bridgid Roney. Did I say your last name right?
Yep,
Okay,
that's me.
great. Okay, just wanted to be sure because sometimes I mess up pronunciations. So listen, she's Seattle born and raised. She is a parent coach, and her life's work is getting the vibe right, which I love that word, the vibe. Like, what could be better? So she combines her deep understanding of the human energy field with her hard-won real life lessons as a homeschooling mother of two. So when she isn't leading her signature regenerative parenting circle or coaching one-on-one clients, she likes to skip out into the woods with her family, which is beautiful and lovely. I think it's amazing. And I am so excited to welcome Bridgid today to Eternally Amy. Yay. Welcome, Bridgid. So
Hi,
I'm
Amy.
hello, hello. I'm thrilled to have you today. And I would love to give you the floor and just have you have an opportunity to just share about your background and as much or as little as you're comfortable with.
Yeah, sure. That was such a sweet introduction. Thank you. Um, my background uh, in the realm of parenting. So before I was a parent, I was very dedicated to the Seattle music scene. That was my thing. I come from a long line of artists and musicians, and I was just like, tuned in, like, okay, I'm doing this. Went to conservatory, was developing a nice little career for myself, doing, jack of all trades, all over the place, being a freelancer, which was totally exhausting, but I was into it and I was doing it. And then, I met my love and we wanted to have children and they came fast. I was 26 when I had my first. So I had some, life behind me. I had some, you know, I was like practically an adult, I guess, but in a lot of ways, this real life situation was a huge shock to me. I just, looking back on it now, I think it was the intimacy that motherhood requires. I had never really experienced it in that way. My parents were very intentional, I'm grateful that they put the effort and attention into my raising that they did. But they had their own trauma. And you never like completely recover, right? It's a scale. And so I was at where I was at, and I had a really significant postpartum depression period with my first. I was the first of my peer group to have kids, so it just wasn't normalized, and I felt very alone and confused, and who am I? What is this? I couldn't carry on the way I was. My freestyle or my freelance lifestyle was like totally incompatible, I thought, with being like a sane mother for this little newborn. And I just remember having such a hard time connecting and looking at this baby and thinking like, you deserve so much and I don't know how to give it to you. And yeah, through all sorts of events, a chain of events, I found myself living closer to my in-laws, which was wonderful. They were very excited, grandparents and aunties and uncles and everything. My husband comes from a big family that just gushes all over each other, and they have, a lot of emotional warmth to give to my baby. And so I saw this happening and I felt detached. And so it's been a journey of like figuring out how to get into that. Like, what do I need to do with myself to figure out how to do that? Mm-hmm. And because it's what I wanted for myself and it's what I wanted for my children. So yeah, that's my background of how I came into being a parent. It's just been a lot of seeking. And I think I'm on a roll at this point. That little baby's now pushing 9 years old. So wow, it's going good.
That's amazing. So, like, how did you foster or begin to foster building that intimacy?
Yeah. Well, how did I begin to foster? You're going to have to cut out a lot of thinking on this. Please edit.
It's totally fine.
How did I begin? Yeah. Well, it starts with seeing that I wanted to show up differently. And then I had to do the work on myself and seek my own counsel, my own therapy, do my own inner child work to kind of unpack it. I had to unfreeze myself. My nervous system, I found, was so frozen. Things we might call avoidant attachment and being just emotionally separate and contained and isolated. I had to, I just remember doing lots of yoga and listening to a ton of podcasts. The first parent coach I started listening to was Janet Lansbury, and she's still going, Respectful Parenting. I just learning like how to talk to my children as my child is another person
Mm.
that I felt like an alien. I felt like my child was an alien. And like, I was like, how do we be humans together? And so I had to listen to podcasts about it.
Yeah. I love the whole idea of seeking, because I think there's, I don't know, something weird that happens when we're moms, where it's like we have this baby, we go home from the hospital, and we're expected to just, you know, okay, yesterday you were this, and today you're this, and you've got this life that you're now in charge of, not just physically, which is huge, but emotionally, mentally, like, here you are building this, you know, this, I guess, life for this child, or helping to set this stage for this child's entire life. And it's a lot of pressure. And I also had postpartum depression. So I totally understand that. And not having the immediate intimacy is a huge deal. And I don't often hear people talk about it. So I appreciate you sharing that, because to me, it always kind of felt like an arranged marriage, having a baby, just sort of like, okay, now here's this baby, and you're expected to just bond and do life together. And it felt like a lot of pressure to me. And it felt like, oh my gosh, how am I not gonna mess this up and ruin their psyche forever? And it felt very scary to me. And it took a long time for me to unpack that and just realize that, you know what, I'm just a person, and this is a person, and we're going to figure it out together. That was just tough for me. So listen, I loved your website so much when you were talking about just the vibe of the house, and how, parents can set that tone, right? And so when we're stressed and fighting with our kids, the vibe is off. When the vibe is off, it's not fun or relaxing to be home. When it's not fun or relaxing to be at home, we can't rest. When we can't rest in our own home, it makes for a miserable existence. And I loved that. So, so well put. And then you also said on your website, what contributes to the right vibe in my house? Ooh, these are good things, right? Healthy boundaries, play, creative freedom, respectful communication, the balancing of needs, and expressions of love. So I'm just wondering if you could maybe share with us about your work and how to get that vibe kind of going in a better direction in our houses.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just, kind of processing that last question a bit too, just thinking of like how to set the stage for a baby to get what they need. I remember thinking like, okay, I need to cook good soup, like make a cozy house that smells like soup, things like this, just getting the vibe right. And yeah, all those elements, I to make things a little more complicated, a little more difficult, to really study this parenting thing as much as I possibly can, I homeschool. um, and more specifically unschool, which is kind of more of a child directed form. And the whole idea of that is you just provide a nurturing environment, and these little seeds that planted in your family, uh, they will take the nutrients that they need from the environment, and you just kind of garden them and think like, oh, they really like to do this, I'm going to give them a little more of this. Oh, they need more sun, just that kind of gardening parenting.
Love it.
So yeah, the right vibe, just the right vibe. And it all comes down to really, as parents, how we are feeling in ourselves. Our children rely so much on us, um, to take cues, on, what's the level of danger here. Can I
Mm.
relax? Am I safe? You know, like, am I wanted?
Mm.
Do I belong?
Mhm.
Am I going to get what I need? Can I focus on this thing that I'm interested in, or will I be reprimanded for it? You know, all these types of questions, because our children are so sensitive and they're so smart, and they're just looking at us. Like, we have all these other things to look at, you know, like work, house repairs, our, you know, our own friendships, like all the other everything. And they are pretty much only looking at us.
Mm.
So just to remember this, and they are building their little nervous systems just
Mm.
right under our roof, or
Mm.
with whatever caregivers, you know, they are with.
Mm.
Um, but definitely, most importantly, like their parents, for better or for worse, have the biggest impact on them.
Mm.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you absolutely did. Actually, my brain is kind of popping like popcorn kernels right now because it's making me think as you talk about all these different things. Like, I mean, how, like, if I'm setting the vibe in my home, I'll tell you this is interesting because the times when I don't know, my mood is just kind of off. Maybe something happened in my own life that I'm processing or dealing with. And, you know, just kind of my energy is all sort of twisted up. My kids will pick up on that so quickly. And they know. It's like they know when something is off. And they'll ask me, you know, what's wrong? And they can just tell. Like I can't fake it with them. And that has served me well because it's built our relationship and given me an opportunity to get real with them and to, you know, constantly be sort of, I'm going to say like filleted open
Mm-hmm.
with them is a definite change to the way that I was raised. And I don't, you know, mean anything poorly about the baby boomer generation or anything like that, but that was not practiced very often, as far as I can tell, with the baby boomers, because it was not modeled for them either. This whole idea of what's really going on inside of you, like, what are you afraid of? All of that stuff wasn't really a thing. It was more like, do as I say, not as I do. You know, I'm not going to apologize. I'm not, you know, all of these different things. And I have found that for me, man, I have gained the most sense of connective tissue building when I'm just getting real with my kids. I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, my daughter came to me and was like, you know, hey, so my friends, like, we're not a skiing family. So I'm from California and like we went skiing, like, I don't know, you know, once maybe every 4 years. And it was like with a church group, right? It was not even a thing. So and my husband is Australian. So neither one of us grew up skiing. So now we're in the Northwest. Everyone skis except for us, basically. So my daughter's like, you know, hey, my friend wants to come skiing, wants me to come with her skiing, sorry. And so, you know, I can borrow her sister's stuff and I'm going to learn how to ski and all of this. And immediately I think of like Sonny Bono, you know, dying and all this stuff and a ski
Mm-hmm.
accidents and all this. So, like, my tone in my response, it wasn't just my response. It wasn't what I said. It was like how I said it. My tone was, I'm going to say lackluster, Bridgid. It was like, oh, okay. It was kind of like that. And immediately she kind of looked at me and I kind of looked at her. And like we're just really, we're connected, right? And so she's like, yeah, so I don't know when yet, but I just wanted to let you know. And this is also, by the way, an older teenager. It's not like she's 5. But you know, immediately she knew because I've had so many conversations with her in the past. She knew that I was dealing with my own stuff, that it had nothing to do with her, but I had to say it. So like she's about to leave the room and I'm like, okay, hold on. For some reason, this is still really hard for me to say out loud, probably because of my ego, probably because of my pride. But the reason I responded with that tone of voice is because I'm afraid. And that is my stuff. It has nothing to do with you. And I am sorry that I took that tone. And, you know, I'm thankful that we are so connected that you knew immediately what was going on with me. And she's like, Mom, she's like, I love you so much. And I'm so thankful. You know, she goes, I would have done the same thing. I would have been the same with my daughter. And so, you know, this empathy building, you know, that we're able to do comes at a personal price, for me anyway, which is I got to just be real. I got to be totally real. And sometimes that's easy and sometimes it's really not. And so, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I hear you saying, you know, even terms like respectful communication, it's like, yeah, it's respectful for me to come clean and tell her how I really feel, right? It's respectful for me to um balance that. You know, inherently there's nothing wrong with her going skiing, and I'm certainly not going to just keep her home so
Right.
that she can not experience these things. And so just trying to take care of my own health and not project anything on her. And yeah, so it's just my brain is kind of going with a lot of different things, but I love the entire idea of just, you know, letting our kids kind of unfold into who they are and watching that process. And yeah, I'm wondering, just kind of high level, if you can kind of give me like a little picture of how you've maybe done that with one of your kiddos.
Yeah. Wow. First of all, I love your story describing, you know, just being in touch with what's happening inside and then naming it for your daughter so she doesn't have to go wonder like why is like was mom mad at me, what, you know, what's going on, what's wrong, and you can just say, hey, this is just something going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't need to carry that.
Mm-hmm.
She can go try new things and expand and grow and follow her joy into a new skill.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's awesome, that's amazing, that's what it's all about. So letting your child just be who they are and watch it happen. I'm figuring that out every day. My kids are 6 and 8, so we're like right in the thick of like figuring out what our um what our rhythm is
Mm-hmm.
for this unschooling thing. I think for my older child, it's much more intellectual. For my younger child, it's much more like body oriented. So just learning that about them first, you know, my older child seems to really just want intense one-on-one conversations about his interests. My younger child, I got to find him an improv class or something because he will just make anybody into an audience. He will strike up a conversation with somebody walking down the aisle. He wants to entertain. He comes and he jumps on our meetings and just like wants to share. And yeah, just really noticing and just respecting that whatever their impulse is good. Like these children, there's there's nothing manipulative about them. Like all behavior is there to get their needs met. And there's nothing wrong with needing attention and needing a conversation, needing stimulation of physical kind or of like mental kind, needing friendship, needing engagement, needing to go to bed if they're tired, like it's all of their behaviors communicating these needs. So when you see a need underneath the behavior, then you're just tending their soil, and you can just respond moment to moment. It simplifies things.
Question for you. How do you figure out, or how have you personally figured out finding out what that need is beneath the behavior?
How do I find that out for my children?
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, I take a look at the environment that we're in. My older child has sensory processing disorder, so I had to get like really in tune with things like, um, is there a lot of like physical movement in the space? Are there a lot of people just like bustling around, that then he'll like get wound up and like can't calm down in that situation. So, if he has a tantrum, in that sort of environment, I'm thinking toddler years, like I got to just be okay with him taking breaks. Like any kind of holiday party or birthday party or play date of any kind where there was a lot of people in one space, I really just had to become okay with wandering outside behind him, and he would touch in and touch out. And that was just our life. Like it was lonely for me for sure. Um, but that's what he really needed. Like I couldn't force him to be in the room. It was excruciating. So like your kids will let you know, like if you take their cues, if they seem calm and engaged, then they're having a good time. If they're getting cranky, think, oh, have they had protein in the last couple hours, hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
Totally.
Yeah, it's just taking the cues from that. My younger child was fine anywhere as long as he was like on me. So, the ergo carrier, and then he's fine. Like no problems. And he could just flirt with everybody from there and be good. So, yeah, just getting to know your child and following the joy and noticing the discomfort and what is surrounding that, and then just letting them be. They're really going to advocate for themselves, and that can look like crying or refusing to give something up, or just their physiology is just flooded in those moments, and they just really need a calm parent to support them and help them get their needs met.
That's so good. I love that. A calm parent to support them. And what's so beautiful about that is that, again, at least sort of when I was growing up and in the church where I was raised, and, it was sort of more of a molding, right? Like we needed to be molded into what somebody else decided that we should be. And it's just such a different approach. And I find it super refreshing to hear this because, a couple words that I keep hearing you use is seek and watch. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's what I do with adults, right? Is that I ask questions and I kind of watch, to see how they're going to respond, what they give to me. And that's how I kind of figure out who they are, right? Is by communicating with them. And so I love this so much because it's like, tailored to an age appropriate level of watching them and seeing who they are and how they unfold. It just seems it seems like a gift, honestly, to have that approach. And so it's almost like I hear you talking about like maybe viewing it through a different lens, and putting on a different pair of glasses than maybe we were raised with, I guess, or I was raised with. Speak for myself.
Oh, me too, for sure. Yeah, I think the result of being raised in a highly disciplined environment, lots of church, lots of, strict schooling, and, high expectations for extracurriculars. Like, I know that was my parents caring about me. Like, it was perhaps misguided for my needs. The result that I've found of being raised that way is like a lot of I don't matter.
Mm.
A lot of I can't show who I really am. A lot of I don't belong because what I have going on inside me doesn't fit.
Mm.
And I want so much more for my children. I want to know who they are. I want to see them. I want to see what they're up to. They're so exciting and they have just the coolest little ideas. And just imagining, like, my dream for our society is this world where people are just contributing,
Mm.
from their natural divinity. Just, here I am. Here's
Mm.
what I have to offer. I want to give it freely because it feels good to give.
Mm.
And I, all I require is the ability to give freely of myself. And I know that my needs will be met and I don't have to go take them from anybody, like, this is the dream.
Mhm. That is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I love it. Contributing from our natural divinity. Like, I almost feel like that deserves a moment of silence. That is so beautiful. And yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? We're so different. We're so not a one size fits all species, right? And how fascinating, and what a treasure, right? To be able to have these kids in our care. We get to kind of see how that divinity reveals itself. And I just love that. That gave me goosebumps. So thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So switching gears real quick though, I got to make time for this because I want to hear about it. Um, the Reiki work, is it Reiki or Reiki? Because I feel like
Reiki.
Reiki. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the Reiki work and about psychoenergetics. Can you kind of unpack that a little bit and tell us about what that is?
Yeah. Well, Reiki is, like, a Reiki practitioner is skilled in moving universal energy. And there's a couple different kinds of Reiki. There's Usui Reiki, which is, yeah, universal energy. Think more like sky, stars. And then there's Kundalini Reiki, which is more earth energy. Um, and yeah, they have different frequencies to them, but it's just, uh, yeah, learning the skill that pretty much anybody can. It has a cool story, actually. The story behind Usui Reiki is, there was a priest who was teaching in a seminary, and he was teaching about Jesus and Jesus' healing abilities. And Jesus said, well, anybody can do this. And so the students said, like, well, teach us how. Anybody can do it. How do you do it? And so Usui was like, oh, I guess I need to learn how to do this. So he studied with monks and energy. He studied energy movement so that he could actually, like, teach people how to send energy the way Jesus did. So it has Christian roots, actually.
Wow.
I
That's, I
know,
had no idea.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, hands-on healing, that would be it. But you can do it from a distance too. It's just getting a pulse on how we're also interconnected,
Mhm.
and learning how to do that flow. So yeah, that was my first clue into energy work and becoming a medicine woman. I started learning about that when I was pregnant with my first. Thank goodness. that I had that, and I was learning about energy right before I went into my dark night of the soul. So that definitely helped me come out of it. Um, just got smacked with a dose of reality. It's like the whole wounded healer path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and then um, we moved out of the city when my youngest was still a baby, and I was looking for a community and somewhere to plant myself up in the suburbs up here. And I couldn't figure it out. Like, I'm used to living on Capitol Hill where it's like, you just walk around and you see people and you see what's going on because there's a poster and you can just wander in, like there's nothing like that. I was just like, where are the intentional people? Like, I have no idea. Um, and I remember just driving around on a dreary day with my baby in the back seat who like napped through mommy and me story time, and I was like, I don't know what the hell to do over here. I was like, show me where the positive people. And that day I thought like, oh, I should go look for a job, a little part-time job. And I did, and like it just popped up like this acupuncture clinic needed a part-time receptionist. And so I was like, sweet. And I went in and I just got the most amazing education from this couple that runs this acupuncture clinic. The husband was the acupuncturist, and his wife was a Barbara Brennan healer. That's another school of energy work. And so I got to study with them like for years, was learning all about this stuff. And they are psychoenergetics practitioners. And there's actually like a training program called the psychoenergetics training program. And it's basically, it's where the psyche meets the body.
Okay.
Is a good way to say that. So lots of like Reiki and characterology and chakra awareness and all of these cool things. That's my framework for understanding people. So yeah, that's it.
I love
Any
it.
other questions? I could just ramble on about that for hours.
No, I love it so much because I mean, that was fascinating too to learn that the Reiki has Christian roots. I had no idea. I mean, never heard that. And what is so cool about that, is so I'm big into Father Richard Rohr and this whole idea, right, of um, non-dualistic thinking, and none of that I grew up with like at all. It was more black and white, this is right, this is wrong, this is this and that. And um so the whole idea to me that you know God, the universe, all of this being so much bigger than what my finite mind has put on it. So like growing up, taking the Bible literally and, reading verses, scripture verses, and kind of like, oh, okay, well, I have to follow exactly what this says. But then, a few chapters later going, wait a minute, though, that doesn't say that anymore. Now, what is this? And just kind of confused, getting all wrapped up in some of that. Um, I'm just so grateful for all of these different, pathways and practitioners who, hold the lantern for those of us who are seeking and just go, you know what? This is bigger than all of us, and maybe we can lean into that. And maybe it's not so scary. Those of us who are raised in the church sometimes are resistant. I will speak for myself. There was a time in my life I was like, oh, yoga? No, that's from the devil. Like I literally thought this, Bridgid. I was very wrapped up in a very conservative upbringing. And so it's just a funny, like, now to listen to myself be so drawn to these different things and like, oh my gosh, tell me more, tell me more. It is that seeker mentality that I feel like has really developed in me that I'm so much less concerned with any of that stuff. I just believe that everything is connected and that everything matters. And, the quantum physics of the whole thing. I think it's really beautiful. And I think it's gorgeous the way that your background now ties into your current teachings and your current, but like, I just think that that's so incredible because, nothing is wasted that way. Like it's all kind of, it's all fusing, if that makes sense. And I just think it's lovely. I think your experience is just lovely. And yeah, it just makes me want to know more, that's for sure. And so tell me, like, what do you do for your work now? And like, how can people find you if they want to, get deeper into this?
Oh my gosh. Yes, thank you. I would love to talk about all of this with anybody who wants to come talk to me. And bringing it back to parent coaching, I mean, gosh, what could be a more intimate relationship and like a laboratory for these kinds of concepts than one between family members? Because when you're raising children, even if you don't have children, you just work with them, like you are like we can't help but project our own inner child onto the child in front of us.
Yes.
It's just how humans work. We're constantly projecting. And so when we are not in touch with our own inner child, when we have pain there, we will project it onto our kids and it'll be a difficult relationship. So this is so interwoven, and it's really amazing too to study how chakras develop by age and stage too. So it's such a useful tool for learning how to parent and how to heal your own inner child through this frame of the energy systems. So yeah, how somebody would get a hold of me, you could just go to my website, bridgidroney.com, and shoot me an email from the contact form there. I'm also on Instagram at bridgid.the.mom. Those are two ways for just direct contact. I'm looking to expand my group offerings. I'm only doing in person right now, but I want to hold wider circles on Zoom. So yeah, just a monthly support circle for regenerative parenting, just the concept of gardening your family, regeneration. Nothing blooms year round. You need to take that time to reflect and rest and dream for the next cycle, and then appreciate when it's blossoming. That's the whole concept behind regenerative parenting circle. So yeah, just stay tuned for all that. And
so cool.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking.
Oh, my word, of course. And, I want to thank you so much for, just coming on and sharing about all of this. It's so lovely to hear what you're doing. And it's so important because, gardening and fostering the growth of these seeds is contributing positively to the stream of life, right? And it's giving to the future, and it's expansive, and I love it. I just think it's just so moving. And so, Bridgid, thank you so much. And hey, for your bailout bag, everybody, like Phyllis Diller, let's remember, gosh, if we're giving our kids this freedom to show us who they are, right? They're probably going to pick a decent rest home for us. At least that's the hope for me. So be kind, rewind. Thank you for the honor of your time. Take what you like and leave the rest behind.